coach in New England, so he's uniquely qualified to join us today via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. My friend ERIC Mangini. All right, I want to start with this. You know the New York media. I like Adam Gase. He's got Ryan Tannehill to a playoff. He's a grown-up. He's done this before. I don't think New York will overwhelm him. I think he fits Sam Darnold, who is very coachable and wants to learn. What do you make of the Gase hire in New York, Eric?
I think it's a good hire. Miami, he was able to go to Miami, learn how to be a head coach, understand what he liked, what he didn't like, make a bunch of mistakes, and now he gets his second opportunity and he stays in the division. Nobody has more intimate knowledge of the Dolphins than he does. He's game planned against the Patriots and the Bills over the past 3 seasons. And then let's say Flores goes to Miami. Great. That's the same defense he's been working against, with New England. So I think this is a really good hire from New York's perspective, because they're piggybacking off all the mistakes that he made in Miami.
He was 5-1 against the Jets. He gave the Patriots trouble, and I do believe New York's got the defensive talent and the special teams players. What they need is an elevation of offense, so I agree with you. I think Adam Gase will provide that. Let's go to the, it's funny, Eric, when you coach in this league with the Jets and Browns, you're dealing with injuries. You get multiple personalities. Belichick's never been great in September. He's remarkable in December and January. I don't like what I see with the Saints in the last month, Eric. They don't pass the eye test. They don't really throw the ball down the field. I kind of lean Rams this morning when I wake up. What do you make of the matchup? Because they met earlier and New Orleans controlled it.
Here's what I didn't like about the motivational tool that Sean Payton used. You bring out the $250,000. You bring out the Lombardi Trophy. Look, those are great things in terms of motivating guys for the longer term, but you lose track of what's in front of you, and I think you saw some of that with Philadelphia. And when you go back and look at this first game against the Rams, they're going to be hard-pressed to score 35 points in the first half. Everything pretty much went their way, and I think the Rams, to some degree, have guys that are big money guys, that are big personality guys, and later in the season coasted a little bit.
Yeah.
But now this is the biggest game that a lot of these guys have played in, and you're not going to get that. And Marcus Peters, motivated, is a really good player. Marcus is one of the best players that I looked at since Darrelle Revis coming out. You get Aqib Talib back. Ndamukong Suh is this the biggest game that he's played in. Last game, nobody disrupted anybody. There are no sacks. There are very little pressure on either side. The Rams are healthy, especially on the offensive line, have the ability to run the ball. I like the Rams, too.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a good point. Ndamukong Suh, Marcus Peters, this is a real point. When you bring big, veteran, wealthy players in, they can pick their spots at times. This is not the hungriest team in October, and I do believe last week the Rams looked like a very focused team. Now, let's go to New England, Kansas City. You obviously coached in New England for years. Listen, they're saying it's going to be minus 15. How much of a factor is that?
I think it's a factor to some degree, but not an overwhelming factor. These guys have played in the cold. Last week was 31 degrees, and the energy, the excitement, the tension, all those things allow you to really focus on what's in front of you as opposed to the elements. New England's going to have their hands full. You look at that last game, they picked off Mahomes twice in the first half. One, I thought, was a great defensive play. The second one was Mahomes trying to make a play, and that's what he needs to avoid, going into this week. But there were 2 balls in the first half, too, that could have easily been touchdowns. One to Hunt coming out of the backfield, and then he missed Travis Kelce. Now, you fast forward to the second half, it's big play after big play. They sack Tom Brady, and he fumbles. They have the kickoff return down to the 4. They hit the deep over to Tyreek Hill. They have the coverage breakdown that allows Kareem Hunt to score on the wheel route. It's going to be an issue for New England dealing with the shifts, the motions, the multiple personnel groups, the mobile quarterback. All those things are problems, and they haven't been as good on the road.
Can you take me inside Tom Brady? He has been bizarrely good in lousy weather. Now, I know he played at Michigan. He's played in Foxborough. Over time, you get used to it. But there is something about Tom. He's a good cold weather thrower of the football. You saw it firsthand. What is it? Just preparation? Is it mental? Is it physical?
Well, Tom has a tremendous ability to focus on what's in front of him, and Bill does a great job of doing that as well. I remember early on in New England, we'd go down to Miami and we'd be worried about the heat. And finally, Bill said, I think it was our second year, look, it's going to be hot there. You got to deal with it. That's it. It's going to be hot there. And you get past all those other things. It's going to be cold. It's probably going to be really cold, but it's going to be cold for everybody. And Tom has that ability to just be in the moment. And that, to me, is the advantage that New England has collectively, is they're so used to being in the moment that the external things, they don't affect the group like it affects other groups.
Sean McVay effect. It seems like anybody that had a selfie with Sean McVay got a coaching interview. Do you think the league overreacted a little bit to his boy genius, label and brand?
I think coaching changes are a little bit like ties. They come in not a style. When I got hired, I was 34, and then you had Lane Kiffin, you had Josh McDaniels, you had Raheem Morris. There was a whole group of younger coaches at that time. And then if that doesn't work out, they'll, say Vic Fangio has a great year and Bruce Arians has a great year. That shift could easily go back to older guys. It's a disproportionate amount of offensive coaches right now. That'll shift back to defensive coaches. Sean had a unique situation. He went into a team with a quarterback that was struggling. He was able to turn that around. Not everybody is entering into those environments. Each one of these environments these young guys are going into, totally different. Like the situation in Green Bay, dramatically different for LaFleur.
Yeah. By the way, Antonio Brown, Chris Ballard said yesterday, basically, not interested. Bill Belichick, though, a couple of times has rolled the dice on big personalities like Randy Moss. If you ran a team today and you needed a dynamic playmaker, would you roll the dice on Antonio Brown?
Well, it depends on how good your locker room is. And one of the reasons that New England can roll the dice is they typically have 90% of the guys are pushing in the right direction, maybe even more. So you can handle one or two big personalities, and usually they conform to the majority as opposed to continue doing their own thing. It's when you start collecting those guys, that's when it becomes a bigger issue. Now, a motivated big personality that goes into New England and wants a Super Bowl, they're going to do whatever they're asked to do in order to achieve that objective. You send that guy into an environment where the team's struggling, or the quarterback isn't very good, or he's too empowered, then you get the other end of the spectrum, which isn't very good.
Yeah. I was just saying, if I was Cliff Kingsbury and I had to face Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson twice a year, Sean McVay and Gurley and Goff twice a year, and now Shanahan and Garoppolo. If I was Cliff Kingsbury, I'd tell my owner, yeah, I'd take him. I think certain teams need him. I think Arizona could use somebody in that division.
Look, Sean's made it work in L.A. Look at the amount of big personalities he's brought in. Marcus Peters, Ndamukong Suh, Aqib Talib, those guys have all had different challenges wherever they've been. And when you win, it's fine. It's no problem with those guys. When you're winning, when it becomes difficult is when you go through a period where you're struggling and suddenly those issues that maybe have existed in the past, those things get highlighted and become much more dramatic than they are when things are good.
ERIC Mangini, good talking to you. Make yourself available once in a while. We'll put you on the show. Why don't you lighten your schedule up a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to come back. Good to see you.
Good to see you, ERIC Mangini. Yeah, I mean, it is just funny about that, Joy. I look at Arizona. I mean, you got McVay, Pete Carroll, Kyle Shanahan, and I just got fired in the Big 12. If I'm Cliff Kingsbury, I'm thinking, listen,
I'm a big piece.
I'm a coaching deficit. And by the way, I got Russell Wilson, Goff, and Garoppolo. Right now, I'm at a quarterback deficit. I need pieces. I mean, if I was Arizona, don't be shocked if Arizona doesn't get Le'Veon Bell or, well, they already have a running back, Antonio Brown.
Yeah. I
mean, they're at a coaching quarterback deficit today. You need somebody who tips the scales in your favor. Hour 3 coming up live in L.A. It's The Herd.